Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to the channel. This Saturday is UFC Fight Night San Diego. In the main event, we have Marlon Vera versus Dominick Cruz, and this is going to be my full breakdown and prediction for this bantamweight fight. And this is a very important fight for so many reasons. So first off, you kind of have a little bit of a logjam in the bantamweight division right now. You have Aljamain Sterling versus TJ Dillashaw going down at UFC 280 for the title. And then probably the number one contender fight is Petr Yan versus Sean O'Malley. And then right behind that, you have Merab versus Jose Aldo. And then right behind that, you have Marlon Vera versus Dominick Cruz. So whoever wins this fight is going to be in a very good spot in the bantamweight division. If I had my best guess, I think the winner of Aljamain Sterling versus TJ Dillashaw will probably fight the winner of Petr Yan versus Sean O'Malley. And then the winner of Vera versus Dominick Cruz will fight the winner of Jose Aldo versus Merab Dvalishvili for the next shot at the bantamweight title. So I believe whoever wins this fight is one win away from a potential bantamweight title shot. And you have Marlon Vera, a young guy who's still in his 20s, trying to move his way up the division, looking for a title shot. And he's fighting Dominick Cruz, who's a legend within the division, arguably the GOAT of the 135-pound division, you know, if you take into account what he's done in the UFC as well as the WEC. And this may very well be his last chance to have a career resurgence and make himself relevant in the title discussion at bantamweight, because it's hard to be up there in age in these lower weight classes. You can get away with it at light heavyweight and heavyweight, but down at bantamweight, it's particularly hard, especially, you look at the bantamweight division, there's so many young up-and-coming killers. So this is do or die for Dominick Cruz, in my opinion, even though, he's on a win streak right now. If he doesn't win this fight against Marlon Vera, I have a hard time seeing him make his way back to the bantamweight title ever again. So this is a massive fight, two elite bantamweights. I'm really looking forward to this fight. So if you look at the tail of the tape for this fight, Marlon Vera is ranked number 5. Dominick Cruz is ranked number 8 in the UFC official rankings. Vera is 29. Cruz is 37. They are both 5'8". Vera has a 70.5-inch reach and Cruz has a 68-inch reach. So a massive youth advantage for Marlon Vera and a 2.5-inch reach advantage for Marlon Vera. So if you look at Dominick Cruz, the story of Dominick Cruz's career is inactivity, particularly his UFC career. He came in from WEC. He was automatically the UFC bantamweight champion when they absorbed WEC. And, he's just been so inactive. He fought twice in 2011, and then he didn't fight again till 2014, where he absolutely starched Takeo Mitsugaki, and people were saying Dominick Cruz is back. He had another injury. He was out till 2016. Then he fought 3 times in 2016. We're like, oh, Dominick Cruz is back again. He lost his title at the end of 2016 to Cody Garbrandt. He got outclassed. And after that, he was out all the way until 2020, where he came back a little bit early. He came back on short notice against Henry Cejudo, fighting for the title, and he lost. He got TKO'd. That's the only time he's been TKO'd in his entire career. And then after that, he has a split decision win over Casey Kenny. I thought he won that fight. That was back at UFC 259 in 2021. And then his most recent fight was December of last year against Pedro Munoz. He got rocked badly early in that first round. I think he got flash KO'd twice, and he was able to come back and win the second and third round by outstriking Pedro Munoz and was able to win the fight. And now we're here against Marlon Vera. One more thing before I move off Dominick Cruz. You look at his professional career. He has 27 pro MMA fights, 24 wins. He's only ever lost 3 times. The losses are to Henry Cejudo, Cody Garbrandt, and Uriah Faber way back in the day, when he made his WEC career debut. So not bad losses to have for Dominick Cruz. He's only lost to the best fighters on the planet. Of those 24 wins, he has 7 wins by knockout, 1 by submission, and 16 by decision. So Dominick Cruz primarily wins by decision. And one thing I wanted to note is Dominick Cruz made his UFC debut in July of 2011. Marlon Vera made his UFC debut in November of 2014. Dominick Cruz only has 9 UFC fights, where Marlon Chito Vera has 19 UFC fights. So that really shows you how inactive Dominick Cruz has been. It's been multiple ACL tears. It's been groin injuries. I don't even remember. There's been a litany of injuries for Dominick Cruz, and that's why he's been so inactive throughout his UFC career, being out for years at a time. There were some people talking about him potentially retiring. There was the Dominick Cruz versus Renan Barão fight that a lot of people wanted for a long time, and then eventually, at one point in time, Dominick Cruz was stripped of the belt because he was out for so long, and then TJ Dillashaw won the belt off Renan Barão, and then Cruz made a return after being off for a few years and comes out and beats TJ Dillashaw by decision. It was a very close fight to win the title back, and then right after that, he defends against Uriah Faber, and then he lost the belt to Cody Garbrandt in a fight that he just got outclassed. Okay, so if you look at Marlon Vera, he has 27 pro MMA fights, 19 wins, 7 losses. Of those 19 wins, 7 by knockout, 8 by submission, 4 by decision. So Marlon Vera tends to finish fights. He's currently on a 3-fight win streak. His most recent fight was in April of this year against Rob Font. It was a main event. It was a 5-round fight. And it's crazy looking back at this fight because you look at the first 3 rounds and Rob Font won 13 minutes of the 15 minutes of the first 3 rounds. And somehow Marlon Vera still won 2 out of 3 rounds. Because what happened in this fight is Rob Font boxed him up in the first round, was boxing him up in the second round. The last 30 seconds, 45 seconds of the second round, Marlon Chito Vera hurt him badly, almost finished him, steals the round. Same thing happens in the third round. Same thing happens in the fourth round and fifth round and so on. I mean, it was an incredible performance. I actually picked Rob Font in this fight. I thought he just had the better boxing. But Marlon Chito Vera, the variety of attack and the power and the fact that Rob Font was just having no effect. He was landing good shots on Marlon Vera, but he was just walking through them. There was really no damage being shown on his face, and then he was landing nasty shots. At one point, he landed a hook kick that I thought he was going to finish Rob Font with that hook kick. It was a brutal kick, and it was just crazy watching that fight because Rob Font would be winning. Last minute of the round, sure enough, Marlon Chito Vera rocks him again. Before that, he beat Frankie Edgar. Had some issues with the grappling in this fight. The third round lands a nasty front kick and KOs Frankie Edgar. Not the greatest of wins. I think Frankie Edgar is kind of on his way out. The win before that was against Davey Grant. This was a great fight. Marlon Chito Vera was just the better striker in this fight. Won via unanimous decision. The fight before that, he lost to Jose Aldo. I mean, Jose Aldo at 135 is just incredible. And Jose Aldo was just able to outstrike Marlon Vera, land the better shots, had good power in this fight, and just outstruck Marlon Vera. The fight before that, he fought Sean O'Malley at UFC 252. And a lot of people have a revisionist history on this fight. This fight was pretty even up until the point Marlon Vera brutally chopped Sean O'Malley's legs. He hit the perennial nerve, then he shucked Sean O'Malley to the ground, and then brutally flash KO'd him with ground and pound elbows, and then Sean O'Malley was stretchered out of the cage with no serious injuries. And a lot of people like to say that fight was a fluke. I don't know how many times I can talk about it. It was not a fluke. And I actually picked Sean O'Malley to win this fight. I thought he was going to outstrike Marlon Vera, but Marlon Vera just shows that he's able to do incredible damage with his kicks. He's shown that time and time again. In the last few years, the only losses he has are to Jose Aldo and to Song Yadong. That's since 2018. They're the only 2 losses that Marlon Chito Vera has. And he's just shown over the course of his UFC career, he's continued to get better. And that's one thing I look for in future contenders and future title holders is every time they come out in a fight, they look better. So when I break down this fight, I see a 29-year-old Marlon Vera and a 37-year-old Dominick Cruz, and I tend to always pick the younger fighter. But Dominick Cruz has this weird, awkward style where he shows that he's not really able to be hit. And I wonder how that's going to work up against Marlon Vera because this is a 5-round fight. Marlon Vera has unlimited stamina. He's very durable. He has a variety of attacks. And Dominick Cruz tends to overextend. So I'm genuinely curious. This could be a fight where Dominick Cruz just dodges the shots of Marlon Vera and ekes out a decision. I think if you're picking Dominick Cruz in this fight, I think you have to pick Dominick Cruz by decision. But honestly, I just look at Marlon Vera and his kicks are so lethal. And even when he loses rounds, he finds a way to earn them back in the last minute by just landing nasty shots and hurting guys. And I think sometimes Dominick Cruz is just overextending and he gets clipped with shots. And, we've seen it in the Pedro Munoz fight only in the first round. And, even in the Pedro Munoz fight where he was getting his legs chopped and he was also getting jabbed up by Pedro Munoz with a reach disadvantage. Pedro Munoz, I think, had like a 3-inch reach disadvantage. In this fight, you have Marlon Vera, who has a reach advantage on Dominick Cruz. So for me, I have to go with the younger fighter in Marlon Vera. And unfortunately, I really like Dominick Cruz, but I'm going to go Marlon Vera via 3rd round TKO. I just think Dominick Cruz's style is predicated on volume and movement. His footwork and his head movement is very good. But it's just not what it used to be. Go back and look at those fights against Uriah Faber. Go back and look at the fight against TJ Dillashaw or Takeo Mitsugaki. It was just different back then. And he's gotten older and he's slowed down. And I think maybe Dominick Cruz wins the 1st or 2nd round, just outstriking Marlon Vera and not being there to be hit. But as the rounds go on, I think Marlon Vera will be chopping the legs of Dominick Cruz, which Dominick Cruz relies on those legs to move around and his ability to not get hit based on his footwork. And I just think as the fight goes on and the mobility of Dominick Cruz is hindered by the leg kicks, I just think eventually Marlon Vera is going to be able to find a kill shot. He's going to hurt Dominick Cruz badly, follow him to the ground, and be able to finish him with ground and pound elbows or something along those lines. Marlon Vera has some brutal ground and pound. We saw it in the Sean O'Malley fight where he flash KO'd him. And I just think Dominick Cruz, he's getting up there in age. He's slowing down. It's just not the same Dominick Cruz that we saw back in the day. And I think, Marlon Vera is just getting better with each and every fight. One thing I do wonder about is Dominick Cruz has very good takedowns because he moves around the cage and he gets fighters following him. And I'm wondering if Dominick Cruz tries to use his grappling in this fight as Marlon Vera tries to follow him through the cage, just following, and then Dominick Cruz is going to shoot a takedown, be able to get Marlon Vera down and control him. We've seen him, have some issues with Frankie Edgar in the grappling department. So I'm wondering if Dominick Cruz comes out and tries to grapple, but that's never really been Dominick Cruz's strategy throughout his entire career, and I don't think he's going to do it in this fight. And as the fight goes on, I think Marlon Vera has way better cardio than Dominick Cruz. Dominick Cruz has good cardio, but it's just not on the Marlon Vera level. I mean, in the 5th round, he's still throwing nasty power shots against Rob Font. And I just think as the fight goes on, there's going to be an accumulation of leg kicks from Marlon Vera. There's going to be accumulation of just damage overall. There's going to be an accumulation of body kicks. Marlon Vera, if I had to pick out his best strength as far as striking, it's his kicks. He has great leg kicks, great body kicks, great head kicks, and they're very powerful. He throws them. They're not just to land. He's not just throwing volume. He's landing to do damage. And I think the cardio is going to be an issue for Dominick Cruz going into that late 3rd round. I think the mobility is going to be an issue going into that 3rd round because of the leg kicks. And I think Dominick Cruz, once his movement is kind of hindered, and Dominick Cruz used to be very unique, but a lot of people have figured him out at this point. They've seen his movement. Back in the day, it used to be like basically unheard of, and people were like, what is he doing? And it was so unique. But it's been seen time and time again. There's a lot of tape on Dominick Cruz. And on top of that, he just doesn't move as well as he used to. And I believe he does a lot of overextending. He's just not super technical. It's worked for him up until this point. But I think Marlon Vera, even if he's losing rounds like he was against Rob Font, and Dominick Cruz is just putting volume on him, I think Marlon Vera will be able to find those power shots, win rounds. And I think as the fight goes on, even if, let's say, Marlon Vera loses the 1st and 2nd round, I think he will be able to win that 3rd, 4th, and 5th round. I could see Dominick Cruz being able to make it all the way to the bell. I mean, Dominick Cruz only ever been finished by knockout 1 time. And I don't think Marlon Vera is going to submit him. I don't even think he's going to try to submit him. One thing I did have a critique for Marlon Vera in the Rob Font fight, there was multiple times where he hurt him, and then he just kind of stood over him, letting him recover. I don't know why he did that. If he does that in the Dominick Cruz fight, I could see Dominick Cruz making it all the way to a decision as well. But I think Marlon Vera is going to find a kill shot, whether it be a jumping knee, whether it be a hook kick, whether it be a head kick. He's going to find a shot as Dominick Cruz is overextending. He's going to hurt him badly, follow him to the ground, and ground and pound TKO in the 3rd round. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Don't forget to like the video, and thank you so much for watching.